Nope.
I was born in a small town in Ontario, Canada. Now, my dad told me that growing up in our first home, there was a lot of activity that was a little unnerving. I had a friend that my parents could not see. I described her as an older lady named Mary. I would sit on my bed and listen to Mary tell me story after story for hours on end. My dad was very worried about this. Eventually, he decided to ask me about Mary. I started telling him about how she looked and what she would tell me, including a story about my dad breaking a statue when he was 9 years old. This caught my dad by surprise. Apparently, this statue was in fact broken by my dad when he was by his babysitter's house, and as far as he knew, that babysitter never told my grandma. He asked my grandmother about it, and she looked at him oddly as he told the story and said she had never heard of that before. This sent a chill down his spine. He then asked my grandmother what the first name of the babysitter was, since he always called her Miss D. Her name was Marianne. My dad was floored. When he got home, he went into my room, and there I was, talking to Mary. He just watched from the door as I sat there talking to some invisible person about my day and my toys and whatever else came to mind. Eventually, my parents came to see Mary as a positive, despite the odd things that would happen. For instance, whenever it got cold, blankets would inexplicably be wrapped around my sister and myself. Yet the blankets were stored too high for us to reach ourselves. When asked, I would tell them about Mary bringing them to us. Not all the spirits of that house were good, though. As children, we were afraid of a separate room in the basement next to the laundry room. It was a barren, concrete room. We used to complain about a terrifying man in that room who was chained to the wall. As I grew older, I felt it was silly to be afraid of this man. Mary was long gone from my mind, and I would pass through the room with no issues. Until one day when I was home with the chickenpox. My grandmother was watching me. I was about 8 years old at the time. I was helping my grandmother with laundry when she had to bring up a basket of clean laundry. I knew how to work the washer and dryer and how to switch the clothes, so I did that while she ran up. I was almost done when I heard something weird from the next room, the barren room. I stopped and listened for it again. A few minutes went by and nothing happened. I finished what I was doing and went to turn on the dryer when I heard it again. It sounded like a chain being dropped. I stood in silence as I heard it again. Then a metal dragging sound. It was then that I made a very poor decision. I began to walk toward the room. As I stepped inside the room, all the sounds had stopped. I saw nothing. I stood there for several minutes just glancing around. Nothing stirred. I turned to leave when standing right there in the doorway was a tall, thin man wearing dirty and torn clothing. Around his leg was a long, rusty chain. I was absolutely frozen in fear. He walked oddly. I could see the skin over his thin limbs stretched like elastic as he shambled towards me. This is where I fell over and covered my face up. I let out a blood-curdling scream, until I felt hands on me. I started to scramble and fight back until I heard my grandmother's voice. "What is it? What's wrong?" I opened my eyes and realized my grandmother was holding me. My heart was racing, and I blurted out the whole story. She just looked down at me with worried eyes and brought me upstairs. We moved out of that house a few months later. I never set foot in that basement again. In my teenage years, I did some research and found that the people who owned the house before us had a son with a mental disorder of some sort. They abused and tortured this poor kid, even going so far as to chain him up in that basement. His existence was unknown until after his parents had passed away. The boy's body was found. He had died of starvation, still chained up to the wall. The thought of that continues to send chills through my spine to this day. Hello, dear listener. Thank you for joining me in this week's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to smack that like button down below and subscribe for future videos if you haven't done so already. And ooh, what is that? What is that little thing? Is that a bell? Yes, my friends, that is the notification bell, and if you tap that, you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Isn't that awesome? Anyway, I apologize for not having a video up last week. Things have been extremely busy in my personal life, and hopefully I won't miss another week. I was thinking about taking a short hiatus for the summer, but you know what? Nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'll just have to plan ahead and time manage a little better, I guess. Anyway, everybody, until next time, stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next video.